Hey guys, LeBurn98 here. This is actually some EA Hockey League footage from Tyson's point of view. This is actually, without giving too much away, actually one of Tyson's big games, and he definitely led the charge in this one for our team. So in the world of hockey, nothing really has changed all that much. I suppose one of the biggest news is of course the Devils announcing the sale to NBA owner for the 76ers, I believe. What's his name? I think his name was Josh Harris. And it was to be expected that somebody would jump in to that opportunity to see if they can change that type of franchise around. I mean, it's one of those weird cases where they've had success winning, multiple Stanley Cups, but unfortunately they're stuck in between, basically, they're right across from the Rangers, and the Islanders have the same problem as well. And the Rangers have a huge fan base there, and it's hard to have two, let alone three teams all within close vicinity of each other. But nevertheless, I mean, they've had a lot of success, in the last 20 years or so. But for whatever reason, it hasn't really translated into a amazingly profitable team. Maybe that's partially due to ownership. We'll have to wait and see how the new owner, if he does anything differently. Some other big news recently is Alfredsson finally addressed the media in Ottawa about his departure to go to Detroit. Basically, he made the decision to leave Ottawa in favor of going to Detroit. And apparently, according to him, the biggest factor was contract talks were stalled at one point, and a lot of speculation was that he was being lowballed by Sens management, and especially Eugene Melnick, who is ultimately the one that determines the budget for this team. Unfortunately for Ottawa, and it's how do I say it? It's definitely a mystery to me how a team like Ottawa could be like this, but they are a budget team. And if you look at the Scotiabank, which is now the Canadian Tire Center, why they decided to change that, who knows? But you go to those games, and for the most part, they're sold out. Pretty much every game I've went to. Now I go to a lot of Toronto ones, but I've gone to other ones as well. My boss at work, for instance, gets me quite a few tickets. By the way, there's one Tyson's goals. But yeah, my boss at work, who is a season ticket holder for the Sens, and he is a huge Sens fan, he does give me the occasional ticket. I've been to pretty much every game, at least, I've seen every team at least once in whatever they want to call it center. So but every time I've went, they've been pretty much sold out. There might be, if it's not sold out, it's definitely close, and then more makes up for it with when Toronto or Montreal, those type of teams come into town. So it's kind of a mystery to me why a team like that, who basically sells out every game, has a top of the attendance records, yet has a budget for his team. Makes no sense to me. But they end up lowballing Alfredsson, and at the end of the day, he decided to leave. And I do have a strong opinion on Alfredsson, which I will not get really into. At the end of the day, if you feel like you're being lowballed by this team that you've basically done everything for, he's taken pay cuts. Regardless if I like him or not, I do realize that in the past he's taken pay cuts to help improve this team during the time when there wasn't a salary cap. I think at one point he deferred some of his salary in favor of getting, acquiring some players, at the deadline to try to help improve their chances of winning a cup and stuff like that. Not too many players are willing to do that, especially in this day of age. Not too many players are willing to do that. And unfortunately, the Sens management didn't see it that way. Now, apparently, Melnyk shot far back at this statement and was actually blaming more Alfredsson's agent, who is J.P. Barry, I do believe, and saying that it has a lot to do with has a lot to do with the agent kind of coaxing Alfredsson into ultimately making this decision. I mean, all agents do that. That's their job, right? Their job is to find the best thing for their client. And in this case, maybe he did have a push there. But I think ultimately it was Alfredsson's decision. He's been in a lot of his negotiations in the past. It's ultimately his decision, and he decided to go try something new in Detroit. So we'll see how that works. I know in my experience I have two sets of Sens fans. You have the one type who are very similar to the way a lot of Leaf fans were when Sundin left, which was, they feel betrayed. They basically want to burn the jersey, burn Alfredsson's jersey. They want to boom the moment he steps on the ice and stuff like that. And then you have the other set of fans that realize they realize what Alfredsson has done for them in the past for this franchise, and generally speaking, these type of fans that think this way are the fans that have been with the team since the beginning. So it is something I've seen between the two sides. The ones that are kind of pissed off at Alfredsson are, generally speaking, the younger crowd. The ones that have only been a Sens fan for the last couple of years. And then the ones that are, they're definitely not happy that Alfredsson's gone. They do understand his reasoning for that, and ultimately do appreciate what he's done for the franchise. So, I mean, that's one of the big stories recently was, Alfredsson, addressing the Ottawa media, and, that's ultimately what he said about it. So, yeah. They also have the Olympics in Russia, Sochi, Russia, and they already have players talking about it. I think Taze was one of them. Was definitely gearing up for Sochi. And you hear a lot of talk about the goalies too, who are going to be Canada's goalies for the Olympics. You actually hear a lot of things about Luongo now, which is kind of strange considering last year nobody wanted him anywhere near their team or the Olympic team, and all of a sudden he may be one of the front runners for this team. If you look at what Price, or the lack of what he did last year in the playoffs or leading up to the playoffs, at one point he was the guaranteed favorite to be the starter for Team Canada. Now you look at that situation, I honestly can't see Price, and this is no bias at all. I think Price can be a good goalie when he wants to be, but he's also inconsistent, and I just can't see Canada really going for him as a true number one. You also have Crawford from Chicago. I think he benefits from being on a really good team. And granted, I mean, the Canadian Olympic team is going to be not a good team. It's going to be a great team, but at the end of the day, so are all the other the teams. Russia and the U.S. and so on. So I think he's a good goalie, but I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact of the team he's currently on. He's very similar to I would compare him to an Osgood in the Detroit era, or Vernon Osgood type goalie, where he's a solid goalie. He'll make the saves when he has to, or when he's called upon, but he's not the game stealer. Now, maybe that's not what you need. Maybe you don't necessarily need a game stealer in the Olympics, but it would definitely help. So it comes back to Luongo. A lot of people are suggesting now that Luongo should be the number one guy. When you look at all the other options, I mean, another one's Fleury. You really look at him; he's never been the last couple of, or actually any of the Olympics, kind of think of it, he's never been the number one starter. So you look at him. I mean, you look at people at goalies who've been starters or played for Team Canada in the past, like Brodeur. He's too old to be the starter for Team Canada, in my opinion. Even though, I mean, he's done so many great things for the game in his career, but he's not what I would expect Team Canada to have for the number one goalie. So ultimately, who do you take? And I can't really think of too many clear-cut guys. So I mean, that's going to be a decision that they're going to have to make, and it's probably one of the hardest decisions. And it's kind of funny considering that Canada for the longest time, I mean, they've had strength in a lot of areas in hockey. I mean, this is Canada's sport, but when it comes to goaltending, I mean, it was pretty much goaltending was Canada's thing. Especially French-Canadian goalies. But now, in recent years, you have like Lundqvist and even like American goalies like Anderson, Miller, and so on. That it's just completely changed around, and it's not really maybe Canada's strong suit right now. But I mean, if you look at all the other aspects of the team or the potential team, I mean, you have a lot up front, you have a lot on defense. And it's definitely going to be exciting to see that team going into the Olympics. And I can't believe it's going to be this year, or next year rather. It's just crazy how time has flown by. I still remember like the Vancouver Olympics, and it seems like that was like yesterday. But in February we're going to be talking about the Olympics and what's happening with all that. In a couple months. It's just crazy how time has flown by. So another thing I heard about was Landeskog, Avalanche signing him. I can't remember if it was a 7 or 8 year deal, and it was pretty good money. I like Landeskog. I think he's a really good player, and when it comes to the Avalanche, they're a type of team you don't really know what you're going to get going in. It'd be interesting to see how they change that team's mentality going forward. I mean, they're not built like a team that should be contending for a Stanley Cup necessarily, but I do feel that with a few additions or tweaking even in the system, I feel that they could be a playoff team without question. So it'll be interesting to see how they change that around. Especially bringing in Waugh and whatnot, to see how that can fit and change the mentality of that team going forward. Another thing I came across, which I thought was kind of funny, was Flyers captain Claude Giroux was injured while playing golf, I think it was. He injured his finger while playing golf, and now he's going to be out 5 to 6 weeks. That's kind of like a freak accident. You don't really expect that to basically delay your season for at least a month or so. But I don't know, it seemed kind of strange. Another thing I noticed, I heard about too, or rather I seen in forums, being a Leafs fan, as the team I generally speaking, I look forward to news on a regular basis. A lot of people right now are kind of panicking with the whole Nazem Kadri and Cody Franson negotiations and really lack thereof. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, everyone has their own opinion, is that Nonis knows what he's doing. Nonis, he knew going in what he wants to pay these guys. I don't think they want to pay him, nor do I expect them to pay Franson upwards of $4 million a season for one really good season. Do I think Franson could be that $4 million player in a year or two? Yeah. In fact, if he keeps improving, I could see him being almost $5 million. I mean, he's a type of player that has that potential. Whether he will be that is another question entirely. Of Kadri and Franson, I do believe that Franson could be the guy with another bridge contract. Now, apparently he didn't like taking a bridge contract this previous season, but we'll see how that goes. Ultimately, when it comes to Franson and to the same extent Kadri, Toronto does hold the cards in their hand. They could let these guys hold out if they so feel like it. At the end of the day, they're not forced to really do anything right now. They could see how it plays out going into the start of the season. They have young guys like Riley, and of course a lot of farm hands as well that they can plug in there to see how it works out at the start of the season. And who knows, if you end up playing Riley, for instance, give him his 8 games to try out with the team, and if he ends up really impressing and he steals a spot, then all of a sudden you may consider trading someone like Franson, and get a good return for him, or a decent return for him. So I don't think Toronto's in panic mode, nor do I expect Nonis to be in panic mode. And even with Kadri, I think Kadri, while I'm sure he would like the negotiations to be complete by now, I don't see him as a type of player that would be the type to hold out. But who knows, right? We don't really know what's in either of their heads or what the agent's telling him and so on. I don't know if he'll get a bridge contract. It's a possibility. In fact, it's a possibility, in my opinion, that both can get a bridge contract. And basically Toronto's mentality going forward is that, yes, we are due Kessel and Phaneuf next year, but the cap's also going up, potentially considerably next year, so we can play it. We'll try it out and see how it works next year, and how their success is after next season. If they even made the playoffs and whatnot. Because if the Leafs don't make the playoffs, then there's a good possibility that someone like Phaneuf could be dealt at the deadline. And they're talking at this point about, people are concerned about re-signing him at some point, especially if you sign Kadri and Franson on 1-year deals. But if they don't make the playoffs, I think Phaneuf might not even be on the Leafs at that point to really make a difference. Kessel, I don't expect Toronto to really field any offers for him. I just don't see them really, I don't see them getting rid of Kessel unless he wants to be getting rid of, and I just don't see that now, especially with Toronto re-signing his good friend Tyler Bozak. But again, you never know in hockey; some stranger things have happened. But anyway, that's basically it. This is just some hockey talk of the latest news. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the latest edition of Saturday Night Hockey. Until next time, this is LeBurn98 signing out. See you guys. Bye.